Dead by Daylight has been around for years, and with every update, killer, and chapter, there's always more behind the scenes than we actually get to see. And that's why today we're going to be diving into all the scrapped content of Dead by Daylight. We're going to be going from everything that was scrapped, including killers, maps, offerings, even a rarity of item you could have. But to start off with, we're going to go into the items. So our first item that got scrapped was the trapple. So as you can see on screen, the trapple doesn't have any description, but it's a apple with some sort of like spikes coming out of it. And it's speculated that this was going to come out with a killer that we're actually going to cover called the Teacher. But as you can see here, it has no cost or description, just the icon. Our next item, we actually have a little more description here. As you can see, this is the lantern. It has the icon, the description, and the cost. And this was basically just going to be the candelabrum from the Castlevania mode, but for lights out. But that's just, of course, speculation. We don't know for sure, but that's what I would assume, especially because if you look at the item, you can tell it's an event-only item. But I actually think this would be a good addition to the game for the lights out mode. Now we're going to move on to some perks. Our first perk on the list is called In the Dark. This perk would make your terror radius smaller based on how many survivors were left in the match. So basically, the fewer survivors were in the match would be the smaller your terror radius would get, all the way down to 16 meters. And this is believed to be an early version of the perk Knockout. And for people who don't know, that makes it whenever you knock down a survivor, if the other survivors aren't close enough, they can't see that survivor's aura. It's like if they get hooked, you don't know where they're hooked. Also reduces the crawling speed and the recovery speed for the survivor on the ground while also suffering from blindness. And also for some reason it decreases their field of view. I actually had no clue that that was a thing. And for our last perk, we have Last Standing, which is also pretty similar to In the Dark. This made it so the fewer amount of survivors that were in the match, as a survivor, you'd gain an action speed bonus. So if someone gets moried or something, you would get action speed bonuses. And this would go all the way up to 25%, which is actually kind of crazy. And with that out of the way, this brings us to the very last thing, which was supposed to be an entire chapter, but it got canceled. If this chapter did come out, it would have brought us a new killer and map. This killer would have been known as the Teacher. I'll put a concept of her design and her perks and abilities on screen. These are just concepts that I found. Also link in descriptions for the original posters. The killer was supposed to have a perk called Detention, and this would make it that if a survivor dropped a pallet on you or missed a skill check, you would gain a token. And every token you gain will increase your lunge attack. And a combo with this, her ability would make it so if there's a survivor repairing a generator or healing another survivor, they would face really hard skill checks. And then also if they messed up a skill check on a generator, it regressed it by 5%. And this had an 80-second cooldown. The 3 perks that this killer was supposed to come with are Underperform, Pop Quiz, and Hex the Final Lesson. And then to go with this, there was also supposed to be a graduation cap offering, which I think would have been a map offering for this chapter. And I also do believe that the trapple item was supposed to go along with this chapter. And last but not least is Spectral Rarity. So this was supposed to be the best rarity in the game, just above like Iridescent. And it has just like this kind of like darkish blue color to it. It doesn't really look special in my opinion, honestly. I much prefer Iridescent, but it looks okay, I guess. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the cut content. I think that the Teacher would have been actually a good addition to the game. This would have been fun, why not? And also any map inside of a school would have been nice to have, even though we had it with Silent Hill. I think this would have been a fun chapter, but sadly, because there's so many things going on in the real world, particularly around school safety and, you know, violence, which just might have rubbed some people the wrong way, and I understand it. It would have probably been a fun chapter, but it's kind of sad that we couldn't see it. And if you ask me, I definitely think it's because of that reason. I think maybe if they just didn't do like the entire chapter and kind of just released a Teacher, it wouldn't have been as bad. But I kind of agree with what Behavior did and just kind of scrapping it altogether and not, you know, risking anyone really getting offended by that, because it's kind of a shitty move on their end if they did. But that is all we have today, and just a little reminder of, you know, what could have been in the game and what the game could have looked like. It's kind of weird because I thought there was going to be a lot more scrapped content for this game, but they kind of just use whatever and they'll change it over time to be what it's gonna be, you know what I mean? Release it and then they roll with the punches until they kind of figure out where they want the characters to be. And it really looks like any scrapped content was either just bad ideas reused for something else, or, you know, not a bad idea. Yeah, let's just leave it there. There could have been plenty of, things that I missed here, but this is just kind of what stood out to me. I used the fandom wiki of Dead by Daylight to get this information. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you want me to go through the scraps of one of your old favorite games, leave a comment down below suggesting that, and I'll be open to accepting. Also, subscribe if you liked more of this content. But remember, even the fog, kindness goes a long way. Be good to somebody today, okay? I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.